Hey everyone, in this video, I want to share with you some strategies that if you're not already leveraging and using can help you increase your advertised sales by over 50% while generating sales at half the current ACoS of your advertising. So this is based on some research that I did. I audited 3 companies' accounts for advertising, and I just had some really interesting findings that I want to share with you, as well as how to actually execute this for your own account. So in this first example, we have total spend of $5,000 and total sales of $91,000. Obviously, these are phenomenal sales numbers. And to note, for this survey, I only looked at search terms that actually converted. So I did calculate even when those search terms didn't convert, but we only pulled out terms that actually converted. So that's why the data may show these at a sort of a lower ACoS than you would typically get in your account. But if we were to basically pause all keywords that had never converted and just focus on keywords that did convert, these would be the numbers. So we can see that we've generated $91,000 in sales at a $5,000 spend. It's incredible, ACoS of 5%. But what was really interesting, what I wanted to find out is what percentage of those search terms that generated revenue came from search terms that showed search volume in tools like Helium 10. So Helium 10 is a tool that we use. And what's so incredible about this is that there's a significant amount of sales that come from search terms that don't show sales search volume. And again, it's not because Helium 10 is not a phenomenal tool. It is, and they've got very accurate search estimates. The point is that the search volume is so low that it's difficult for tools like Helium 10 to estimate. So what we're talking about is a very low number of impressions, but going after slightly more long tail terms, and I'll talk about what that means in a second, so that you can generate sales at a much higher conversion rate and a much lower ACoS. So for example, we had over 660,000 impressions, 7,900 clicks. And we could see that for SEO terms, so keywords that included SEO that showed any search volume whatsoever in Helium 10, we spent about $4,000 and generated about $60,000 in sales at a 7% ACoS. You could see that this was 96% of impressions. So almost all the impressions went to the search terms that had search volume. Well, that makes sense. When we go down to search terms that have or show no search volume, we are looking at $687 in spend that generated $32,000 in sales at a 2% ACoS. This is phenomenal. So it accounted for 36% of all sales, but only spending $687. What's interesting, there's a couple interesting takeaways in comparison. The average cost per click is a little lower, but not that significantly. We could see that average cost per click for that we were doing for SEO terms was 64 cents. This was only 59%, but it only had 3.5% of impressions. What we do find is that it had a higher click-through rate. And we also know that the conversion rate was much higher. Now, this is what really surprised me. The average word count was the same or virtually the same. In this case only, average word count total was 4. 3 keywords or 3 keywords in a search term for SEO terms, 4 keywords on average for non-SEO terms. But if we go to this next account, again, $4,800 in spend, generating $43,000 in sales at an 11% ACoS. Again, the SEO spend constitutes a majority of that and generated 67% of sales. So again, a good ACoS, 12.9%, again, for converting terms. When we go down to the no SEO spend, we spent $1,100, generating $14,000 at a 7.8% ACoS, but it generated 32% of all of their advertised sales. Now, my former thinking, I used to look at Helium 10. We would look at all the search terms that had search volume, and we would bid on those. That made sense. It didn't make sense to bid on a keyword that has no search volume. But I'm going to actually walk you through the process of how we do this. And the key is there are search terms that are searched so infrequently that the tools don't pick up on them, but almost nobody else is bidding on them. So I'm going to show you how to find those keywords in a second. We can see in this case, they only had 19% of impressions, but again, generated 32% of sales at a really good cost per click and conversion rate. Last company, again, $4,000 spend, $17,000 in sales. About SEO, $3,000, so basically 75% of that was for terms that had SEO, generating 50% of their sales. And that was at a 32% ACoS. It's a little more typical for most accounts. What really blew me away is, again, $1,000 in spend to generate $7,900 in sales at a 12% ACoS. That is literally 1/3 of our traditional ACoS. And our cost per click is about the same, $1.69 versus $1.68. What we did get here is a much higher average click-through rate, right? So 1.24% all the way to 11.51%. And they just converted that much more significantly. The number of words is exactly the same. For the search terms that showed search volume and the ones that didn't, it was 4 words. So in terms of takeaways, the 3 things that I want to talk about are, first, synonyms. So if you're advertising for a bike, also include keywords like bicycle. If you have an alphabet product, also use the words ABC. And then really more importantly, get specific. So don't just advertise on healthy snacks or gluten-free snacks. If it's a muffin, you also want to advertise on healthy muffins and gluten-free muffins. Makeup is a good term, but mascara is the more specific keyword term that you want to advertise. And the last thing that I found was, in many cases, it was just the same keywords in reverse order. So snow gloves versus gloves snow. People actually search for both of those. The key takeaways are, you can get these at a slightly lower cost per click, much higher click-through rate, much higher conversion rate. And you have to go beyond SEO keyword research. Use synonyms and use multiple orders. So basically rearrange the keywords in different ways. And in the next video, I will actually walk you guys through the process of how I find these keywords and how we create those search terms that we're actually going to advertise on and do it from a good standpoint.